on to our first class of Yorkshires. I think there are 11 of them born between January 1st and January 18th. just to clarify any confusion, this is our first class of Yorkshires. There's one more class of Yorkshires. Then we will pick a champion and reserve Yorkshire. Then we'll move right into our first class of crossbred market gilts. Each breed, crossbred breeding gilts. Each breed will show for champion. So, like the champion and reserve AOB, Burke, Duroc, Spot, Hereford, every breed will come back and introduce and show for champion overall after we pick our champion crossbred. So, you do not need to come back till after the crossbred breeding gilts if you are a breed champion or reserve to show for overall champion.
An extremely close pair here on the top of the first class of Yorkshires, and subtle differences sort of, and I'll try to do my part in describing and what I see. Ultimately, the young man's Gilt, I think, reads just as a denser skeleton Gilt. It's got the more appropriate jawline. I prefer her skull and just her jaw, and then a fraction better than a Gilt. And second, I think she's a bigger arm gilt that's just more square right there on the top side of her blade. And the biggest differences that I see is as you start to study the two out of their hip and hind leg. My class winner's gilt is a little leveler and squarer about her rump design. I think she drops with a more appropriate hind leg and hop set. As he step in behind him, I think she utilizes her rear leg just a little easier and a little looser and just a little more square, hip hop to ground as you get in behind him. Now, what makes it so close is the gilt in second. She's more robust. She's bigger in her forehead. She's rounder in terms of her body shape and just that extra boldness through the center part of her body. A big shoulder, a big back, lots of spread up high type of female. At the same time, I didn't see her quite as good about her rump design. She wants to taper just a fraction, maybe gets just a little tighter about her hop. You get in behind her, and that's another one that just wants to roll her hops just a fraction, more the right one than the left one, but then it's a subtle differences that sort of, I'll take the better built one every day of the week, but I love that extra power. Young lady's done an incredible job of presenting that animal, ultimate hair and skin, ultimate freshness, really good body. The hog in third is probably there by default. I think that's the most logical place to do as you get rid of the 1 and 2. That one is safe, she's functional, she's complete, she's practical. I didn't see the extra bells and whistles that we had at the top of the drive. I saw her just a fraction more narrow as you got in behind her. Maybe wants to wrinkle up just a little bit more in her handle and hook up. And she's just a little flatter bladed and flatter ribbed comparatively. But I still thought that her bone work and just her fundamentals is what allowed me to go ahead and use her over the Gilt at 4. The Gilt at 4 is a real fresh-backed, highly presented gilt that's got a lot of bone work and a lot of muscle. I didn't see her quite as comfortable off of her hind tooth. She wants to knuckle off of her rear pasterns and just didn't utilize her hind leg as easy and just as loose as we started to get her up in the top of the drive. But I still thought that her bone work and just her upper skeleton is what allowed her to go ahead and beat the gilt we drop out next. From the side, this one's as good as anything in the drive. She's long-fronted, she's feminine, she's got a good back line that's laid into her, a good arm. But as you start to just study her up high, that's a rounder back gilt that gets just a little flatter and harsher through the center part of her body. I just didn't see the extra width up high or down low to go ahead and move her any higher in this respective class. There is more power, there's more shape and muscle than the gilt that drops next. I read her as a little shorter on each end of her body. She wants to jam up through her head, gets just a little thicker about her neck, maybe wants to round and taper out of her hip and just didn't handle her rear too quite as easy as a couple of those that are right above her. But her width and her muscles are what allowed her to go ahead and trump the gilt that drops next. Another one is another very good, highly presented gilt that maybe gets just a little lower set, a little shorter couple, maybe get just a little more mature through the front third of her body. More than anything, I just need to change her off of her rear too to make her more ideal, a little rounder in terms of her muscle pattern. The gilt that comes next is very heavy structured, probably the most extreme in foot and bone, a little staler in terms of her overall appearance, a little more wavy in terms of her back line, maybe just didn't quite have the width underneath or the freshness up high to move any higher. And then as we start to let the remaining hogs go, these are hogs that maybe just scared me just a little bit more as we set them in motion, but still very fundamental, very good in terms of just the quality that they bring. Easily one of the deepest and toughest classes with a great set of showmen. Congratulations to them all.
Class 2 of the Yorkshires has 11 head in it, ranging in age, birth date from January 26th to February 17th. Once again, after this class, we'll pick our champion Reserve Yorkshire Gilt, and then we will move into our crossbred breeding gilts, our first class of them after we pick our champion and Reserve Yorkshire.
really a challenging class to sort all the way through, and there's just not an easy answer in each of these placings. I landed on a pair of hogs that I just felt brought the most quality and the most totals and the most completeness as you started and studied in front to back. The young man's Gilt, I think, just leaves you with just a better hind leg. I think she's just more square, hip hop to the surface. I think that's another one that's opened up underneath and looks like a female from the side. And I just prefer her blend and balance a fraction better as we compare to those hogs on down the road. Obviously, she's souring up and wanting to give out, but I thought that her squareness of hind leg was just a fraction better than the Gilt in second. The Gilt in second, from the side, she's my class winner. I prefer her proportions, her frame, her body length, and her bone the best. She is easily the best one as you study her from the side view, and really even as she comes right at you. I just need to change her off of her hind leg. She wants to roll her hawk and just doesn't move north and south quite as well as you start to study her on the go, but that's still a very elite looking one that certainly has a chance to make hogs better down the road. A really stout skulled one drops next, and I love the extra elevation up high. Really a heavy structured kind of a Gilt that's got a good jaw. At the same time, she reads a little shorter on each end of her body. That's another one maybe wants to get just a little more bowed as you get in behind her. A good silhouetted Gilt that has a good symmetrical look from the side view. I need to open her up, coming and going. I need to style her in terms of bone work to make her more ideal. A really well-presented, big-legged one that drops out next. And that's another that maybe just gets just a little tighter in terms of her hip and hind leg, a little flatter and harsher right there through the center part of her rib and body. Another nice one that drops next that just didn't have the bone work or the foot to move any higher today. And then as we start to let the remaining hogs go, these are still very quality animals that's been cared for extremely well. Congratulations to them all.
We're now going to select our grand champion, Yorkshire Breeding Gilt. Okay. Roll.
Really an outstanding Yorkshire drive that we've had, and you know, we won't take any more time when I don't feel that it's needed. I think there's a pretty clear choice for me as you start to get this pair out and just study them from the ground and work your way up. One of them just reads a little stouter, and I think that just a little truer, easier moving kind of a female that still reads with some feature and shape and squareness. Young man out of the first class will have your champion. Congratulations. Dropped the Gilt in second, and like we talked to in class, she's just a monster in terms of just sheer power and dimension, very three-dimensional in her build. Young lady can drive the wheels off of her. You love the look she gives you up front. You love the elevation. You love the spread and boldness. She wanted to get just a little bit different in terms of her rump design, and maybe just didn't read quite as square in her hock as you stepped in behind her comparatively, but I still feel she's the second best one. Young lady, you're going to be reserved. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Ryan Holman on his Grand Champion Yorkshire. If he wants to come back here and grab his banner, we have it here. And reserve went to Lindsay Schmitz. Congratulations those two. As I said, now we're going to move into our crossbreds. Each breed will come back and show for champion after we pick our champion crossbred commercial breeding gilt.
if the first class of these crossbred commercial gilts are any indication of what's to come, we're in for a very competitive drive that's going to be fun to study and sort, and for hopefully you folks that are along ringside can certainly evaluate as well. So we land on really a top four that's just made up with quality and style and balance. These hogs are presented extremely well. The presence, the hair and skin, the freshness, it's all spot on and ready to roll. Ultimately, my young ladies class winning gilt just reads just a little bigger in scale, a little later maturing, and I think that's one that has a better ability of getting on to those heavier weights. Really an awesome skull gilt that's got a great, beautiful jawline. She's fresh back, she's feminine, she's got a big arm that's laid into her. Really a dense maiden as you study her there in the foreloin. A big, big girl that maybe wants to use her head just a little more than what I deem ideal, but that's still a very solid, very comfortable place to start. There's a more moderately sized gilt than the gilt in second. I love her density in terms of the center rib and bone work. Maybe gets just a little crestier right there in the top part of the pole. Maybe needs to be a little rounder about her hip and muscle pattern. But I love her bone work and I love her body and design. A really solid one that probably closely resembles our gilt that wins. Another one that's tall-fronted and just very fundamental. She's proportioned, she's balanced, everything goes together from the side. A very attractive fronted gilt that's got just a beautiful back that's laid into her. As you start to study her right there at the arena surface, I didn't read her as stout, I didn't read her as open and true, maybe just not as athletic as you start to study her off of her rear leg. A really solid blue gilt that comes next, and this one probably has more structure and jaw and feature. At the same time, I didn't read her as good through her forehead or body. I didn't see her as opened up as you started to study her underneath, maybe not quite as clean in terms of her hops. A nice kind of a gilt that comes next, a really attractive one that's good and square down the top and back line. Just a little straighter, more rigid on each end of her body. Maybe wants to roll a hawk as you get in behind her. A nice kind of a calico gilt that drops next. One of the heavier structured hogs that's in this particular class. At the same time, that one wants to get just a little more vanilla up high, maybe not the width underneath that we need to go ahead and move any higher. A big frame, fast growing gilt that gets just a little plain up high, maybe a little more rigid in terms of her movement, not as fresh, not as attractive, and just not the presence. A good fresh narrow belted gilt that needs to drop in terms of the center rib and body. And then as we let the remaining hogs go, these are hogs that maybe just had a few more question marks as you started to study them on the move. Very competitive class. Congratulations to them all.
Thank you, Jeremy. Now we're now ready for our second class of crossbred breeding gilts. They will weigh in at 231 to 248 pounds. Just a heads up, as you can see in the program, following class 14, which is the fourth class, so before classes of crossbreeding gilts, then we will do our Division 1 champion and reserve, and probably a third, if we pick a top, whatever our judge thinks we need to come back to pick our champion reserve at the end. Just a reminder, as we get towards the dinner hour here, we have some food vendors to the southeast of the judging arena there, so as you get hungry, please go partake of their fair food. This might be the only chance some of you get to have fair food this year, so go get your fix. I know there's corn dogs and things like that, so as you get hungry, you can make your way over there.
Nice class, and the young ladies Gilt, I think, as you just study this pair, that's the longer bodied one that just shows more extension on each end of her skeleton. I love the extra length of neck, and I think her maturity pattern and her length of hip and her length of neck just allows that Gilt to go ahead and blend and balance, and I think we can project her on up to those heavier weights, and you're still going to have a good proportioned animal. I like her in terms of her width of her knee. She's an extra stout one that's got a good hind leg working in her. I thought that her pin set and her squareness of hip and just her length of hip was a fraction better than the Gilt in second. The Gilt in second is another stouty, big back-legged hog that's got a lot of skull and feature laid into her. At the same time, I didn't see her quite as loose about her hip. I didn't see her as long in terms of her neck or front end, and as a result, she maybe wants to get just a little more rigid on each end of her body. But her bone work, her body, her dimension is what allowed her to go ahead and beat the blue Gilt that comes next. The Gilt in third is longer about each end of her skeleton. At the same time, she wants to get just a little tighter about her hip, a little straighter in terms of her hop. And I just didn't see the forerib or just the body shape to go ahead and move her any higher in this respective class. But young man's got that one dialed in, heads up, and just a very interesting, very high presence kind of a Gilt to be in that third hole. There is more shape and bulk in her as we get into the Gilt in fourth. The hog in fourth is another big skull, heavy duty type of female. At the same time, I didn't see her as loose on either end of her body. I didn't see her as dimensional in terms of her center rib or width. But her skull and her bone is what allowed her to go ahead and beat the Gilt in fourth. This other blue belted hog is another very high-headed Gilt that's small-shouldered and late matured. I need to open her up through the base of her body. I need to square her as you step up behind her, maybe even just freshen her up and give her more of a youthful head and neck as you study her through the top part of her pole. This one is more youthful. She is cleaner about her crest. I didn't see her as good in terms of bone work. Maybe it's just a little tighter and more restricted on each end of her skeleton. I need to crack that one open as well. The black nose Gilt is another heavy-legged one that gets just a little softer on her front feet, get just a little rounder in terms of her muscle pattern. I didn't know how dense and just truly shapely that one was. Narrow-belted Gilt coming out next just needs more width and power and bone to move any higher. The remaining hogs are still very quality animals that's been cared for extremely well. Maybe just didn't quite have the extras to move any higher today. Fun class to sort. Congratulations to them all.
We're now ready to move on to class 3 of the crossbred breeding Gilts. These range in weight from 250 to 257 pounds.
land on a pair of gilts that obviously are ate up with power and width, and I still think that they're functional in terms of their underline. Their balls are set appropriately. They got a good stout featured look, but yet extension on each end of their body. And I think these are the two that I just bring the most in terms of totals, and then still bringing some extra bells and whistles to the table. My class winner isn't perfect, folks, and I'll be the first to admit that. I'd like to loosen her out of her hip as you start to study her in motion, but I still thought that that was one that was just the hardest to make, and maybe just ran the most elite in terms of her skull, her jawline. Her upper skeleton is cracked open and fresh and bold. She's true and honest and dense as you study her from the ground and you work your way up. Just a very interesting one that just had just a shot more as we compared her to the Gilted second. The Gilted second's probably a little more modest in terms of her power up high. Probably just didn't have the extra look and style through the front third of her body, but that's still a big featured gilt that's opened up, that's long on each end, and then just reads very functional in terms of her make and model. Really a big bodied gilt that comes next that's extra tall fronted and level topped. At the same time, that's a gilt that wants to rock her shoulder a little further forward. It's just a little straighter and choppier off of her hind tube. And that's another that just didn't read as bold underneath as you started to study her coming right at you. But I love her silhouette, and I love her shortness of back and just her back line. A fraction better than the Gilted 4. The Gilted 4 is very productive. She's moderately sized. She's got a good forerib and a good pliable type of center rib that's laid into her. Stepping behind that one, and that's a gilt that wants to roll her hop there on the outside of her skeleton. More than anything, I'd like to lengthen her hip to make her more ideal from the side profile, and those short hip hogs I probably had more struggle with in the farrowing house than anything else. I think that's a very contributive factor to farrowing issues, but that's still one that's just big body and really productive, and I think that's just where we got the gilt that comes next. That one just reads just a little more tubular in terms of her rib. It's just a little more tucked up through her forerib, but yet heavy structured and big footed and big skull, maybe not as wide, not as robust. The gilt that we drop next is another one that's big in terms of frame size and scale, a little different in terms of hip and hop. Maybe just doesn't go to the arena surface as wide and true as those that are right above them. Young man's done a nice job of presenting that animal, does a really good job of getting that right kind of headset. A softer body kind of a gilt that drops next, not as stout, not as heavy duty, not as muscular, or just as open up high as we compared her to the top. And then as we start to let the remaining hogs go, these are still quality animals. The painted up gilt is another that's really long and extended, got a sharp, crisp back that's laid into her. I need to open her up as you watch that girl come right at you, freshen her through her body, and just see a more productive kind of rib that's laid into her. Fun Plastosaur, congratulations to them all.
Okay, this is our fourth class of crossbred breeding gilts. After this class, we'll pick our Division I champion reserve. So we need the top two from each of the four classes to come back for that selection of champion reserve. So if you had a first or second in any of the first three classes, after this class all gets in, you can make your way into the entry pens. We should have all of our first and seconds from our first 3 classes in our entry pens. After Judge Jeremy finishes this class, we'll go right into our Division I champion breeding gilt.
Judging shows and working with kids and evaluating livestock is a passion for mine. It's been a passion of mine for, I guess, over 20 years now. And I guess I'm dating myself just a little bit, but this is fun, folks. I love whenever I get the chance to judge elite livestock that are being driven to the level that these two and really several of them down the road are being driven at. They're prepared, they've been cared for, they've been managed. You can tell so many hours have been put into these animals, and man, it just makes it that much funner. And they always ask me, well, would you judge a really tough competitive class before an easier, less boring class? And every day of the week, give me the good ones, give me the tough classes. That's where it really gets me going. So we land on a pair of them that are very special. I think these are movers and shakers. I think they can make the show pig industry better as you start to put them in production. And ultimately, my class winner is just a hammer. I think she's a man among boys as you start to study her right there at the arena surface and you work your way up. She's so comfortable on each end of her body. She's opened up and square and dimensional and true. She's a dense body gilt that's got just the right type of spread and shape up high, really square in terms of her blade, hip, and then the way she transitions into her hock and rear leg set. Just a really special one to go ahead and start. I thought the gilt that came out early, I thought, well, there's an easy class winner because she's athletic, she's square-hipped, and she's got a good hind leg. Comparatively, she's not as good in terms of her center rib and body. She gets just a little crestier right there in the top part of her pole, and maybe just didn't quite have that punch as you started to study her underneath or right there in the center part of her body. A really interesting blue gilt that comes next, and I like the extra stoutness of bone and feature that's laid into her. That's a really unique kind of a breeding piece that not only is good in her color pattern, but man, she is so heavy in terms of her structure. She's got a level, long kind of a rump design. I wish you would just give me a different kind of a gear. More than anything, I just need to open her up. I need to crack her open at the top part of her shoulder. I need to give her a rounder, more robust type of a rib and body design. And then I just need to open her up through her chest to make her more ideal. But her bone and her look from the side is what allowed me to go ahead and use her over the gilt that drops next. Now this one does have more punch. She is a shapelier, a denser made one that has probably just more muscle there on the back side of her shoulder. At the same time, I didn't see her as loose on either end of her body. That's another harsher middle gilt that just didn't have the structure as the gilt that was right above her. A really interesting gilt that comes next as well. This is one of the later maturing, taller, more extended gilts in this respective drive. I didn't see her as good on either end of her body. Wants to shuffle on each end. I just like to loosen her up and stout her up to make her more ideal. A really solid black gilt that's got a lot of muscle, look, and presence as you study her from the side. Same deal. I need to just flex her just a little differently as you study her on the move and maybe just open her up through her body. A good, well-presented gilt that comes next. Gets just a little straighter in her shoulder, a little tighter in her knee. Maybe not the bone work, but just the skeletal width as those that are right ahead of them. A really productive, narrow-belted gilt that has a good, soft body, really pliable through the lower portions of her rib, heavy-boned and big-footed. Gets just a little plainer fronted, a little thicker neck, and maybe not the width, maybe not the squareness of hock that we have in a few of these others. As we start to let the remaining honks go, these are still really quality animals. Again, a very competitive drive. Congratulations to them all as they head back to the pens. folks, if you would, let's give these class winners a big round of applause. Just to get to this point, it's been a dogfight. There's been nothing easy about getting to a class win. These classes have been tough, they've been challenging, and then again, these kids are doing an awesome job of getting these animals driven. There is one for me that hit me really hard, honestly. The second that she stuck her nose to the gate, I thought that we may have something here, and she doesn't disappoint. The longer the drive goes on, she's just simply the one that gets into my wheelhouse the most. She's the kind I try to build at home. She's the hardest to make. She's the one that reads the most unique in terms of her build. She's the one that's the most unique in terms of her balance and just the proportions that she has, front to back, top to bottom. Young man, you've got it. Congratulations. My champion came out of a hornet's nest, and our Gilt in second obviously gets right into the thick of things. Just so athletic. The young lady's been trained well. She knows her animal. She knows that she has the type of skeleton that can operate at that faster gear and that faster pace, and that's fun to watch. It's fun to study, and it's fun to show off a Gilt that can really get out and move and just bend her back leg like she's supposed to and have that type of a push and flex out of her hip. That's a hard thing to do, and that's certainly something that I tried to build around at the house. Young lady, you're going to have reserved. Congratulations to you.
Okay, our champion, Division 1, was Kate Frecking of Jackson, Reserve, Danica Prinz of Iona. Congratulations. Taking just a short break here, and then we'll move right into our first class in Division 2. That'll be Gilts weighing from 270 to 282 pounds. just to let people know how things are going to run here, this is our first class of our second division. We'll judge these classes, do our second division champion, top 5, and then we'll pick our champion reserve and probably top 5 commercial gilts. Then we'll pick our grand champion breeding gilt. We'll need each breed champion reserve back along with our probably top 5 crossbreds to do our top 5. Then we're going to take a lunch break so we can get some pictures taken. So it'll probably be close to an hour that we'll take before we start market gilts. Because we want to get our judges pictures with our top 5, and we'd like to take anything that got a banner, get a picture with them. Also, they wanted me to announce that the Farm Bureau here is grilling pork chops, and they have them ready to go just east of the judging arena over here. Just follow the smell of the smoke. And they said all the proceeds will be put back into sponsoring these youth activities.
extremely close call here on the top of this drive. And ultimately, my chromed up belted Gilt is one that I think edges out the Gilt at second. As you study this pair at the arena surface, the young man's Gilt, I think just reads a fraction stouter. I think she's just a bigger footed Gilt that's got a slightly bigger arm. I think her rear leg bone reads just a little stouter. And then I think that she just goes to the surface with just a notch more trueness and just genuine width. As you start to study her coming and going, she's still a good body, good looking Gilt that balances well from the side. I wish her speed was faster, and I think that's maybe what throws me off just a fraction. The Gilt second is better in terms of her presence. I think she's better in terms of just the lines and the looks that she gives you from the side. I absolutely love that type of silhouette. Her neck ties extremely good into the top part of the shoulder. She's fresh down her top and back line. She's square out of her hip. She's got a good ladylike look through the front third of her body. Not as heavy duty, not as big in her rear leg bone, and maybe wants to flicker out of her front toes and just doesn't go to the arena surface with just as much width and just as much honesty as what my class winner did. The top part of her is lights out good. There is probably a bigger foot and arm in the Gilt than third, and I like that type of skull. Really a big shoulder, square back Gilt that's got just a dense type of a loin edge that's laid into her, long and level out of her hip. A little harder bodied as you study her through the center part of her rib. I just like to see a more pliable kind of a cage that's laid into her, maybe loosen her out of her hog just a fraction to make her more ideal. But that's a very interesting hog that's got just a tremendous amount of breeding value as you start to project terms up in putting her back into production. And a really interesting kind of a hog. There's just a longer hip and a smoother back line than her as we get into the Gilt and 4. The Gilt and 4 is a gorilla. She's modern in terms of size. She's extra stout in terms of her bone and foot and forearm. Got a big, powerful hip that's laid into her. At the same time, gets just a little piece here in the way that she's made. She wants to wrinkle down her top line, gets just a little pinched in her hairline. I'd like to lengthen her hip and just bring her hump back in as you step in behind her. The front 2/3 of her is awfully nice though. A belted Gilt that drops next is another one that has a good length on each end of her skeleton. Gets just a little different in terms of her shoulder and knee placement, a little harder body, maybe not the pop that we have up high. A calico Gilt that drops next is a lot like the one that was right above him. Really good looking, really shapely and bold and stout. A little lethargic in terms of movement, a little tighter hip, a little softer on those front toes. A nice kind of a blue Gilt from the side. I love the depth of body. I love the softness of rib. I need to open her up underneath. I need to crack her open up high and just square a hawk as you get it behind her. A black Gilt that comes next is another one that just reached too hard in terms of her center rib and body. As we let the remaining hawks go, these are still really quality animals that's growing exceptionally well. This is just a little different as you study them on the move. A fun class to sort. Congratulations to them all.
We're now moving on to Class 16, the second one of our heavy division. These are Gilts ranging in weight from 285 to 293 pounds.
another outstanding class, and we land on a pair of belted gilts that just reach stouter at the ground as we compare them to the other contemporaries. I think my class winner just breathes with just more spread and dimension throughout her skeleton. She's a fresher back gilt that's got just a bigger square kind of an upper shoulder and blade that's laid into her. I just think she's more dimensional. I think she's better in terms of her forerib and center rib and body, and I like the presence that she gives you from the side. I would like to just soften her right there in her hammer and hook up, and I think that would just give her just a little bit better look from the side, and I think she's sound enough. Obviously, she's not the loosest hipped and hopped one that we've seen today, but everything runs north and south, everything is square, everything's within herself. That's the reason that we can go ahead and use her. The extra stout one comes in the gilt in second. I love her skull. I love the extra feature that's laid into her. A monster arm gilt that's got really big square feet and toes that's laid into her. I didn't read her quite as good. Through the center part of her body, gets just a little flatter in her upper blade and back. Not the expression, not the spread, and just the dimension that we had in our class winner. Probably had the edge in terms of bone and structure. An interesting blue gilt that is softer and more pliable through the center part of her body as we went back and forth. At the same time, I didn't read her as stout in terms of her rear leg bone. I didn't read her as loose out of her hip and hop, maybe just not the proportions or the presence that we had in 1 and 2. But her body and just her productive look is what allowed me to go ahead and use her over the all-belted gilt coming next. This one coming next is a very muscular gilt that's got a big chest and a big powerful hip. Gets just a little different in the way that she handles her skeleton, both front and back. Maybe not the blend, maybe not just the elevation that we had in 1 through 3, but I still thought that her muscle shape and just her dense back is what allowed me to go ahead and use her over the narrow belt that comes next. The hog that drops out next is another extra heavy duty one, maybe the stoutest legged one in this particular class. Big skull, big arm, got a monster rear leg in her. I need to change her in the way that she handles her hip and hop. She just uses her hip just a little too much than what I deem ideal. Wants to swivel out of it instead of running everything north and south. Gets just a little bit wavy in terms of right behind her shoulder, but man, where she's good, she's incredible. Really an interesting breeding piece that can certainly inject bone and structure and feature in one generation. Just need to loosen her hip, maybe strengthen her back to make her more ideal. This one is taller fronted and stronger backed as we compare. I didn't see the bone, I didn't see the boldness that we have in 1 through 4, but that's still a good fresh backed one. It's got a good look, just too narrow, a little too tight in terms of her body. There is more body in this one. Gets just a little staler, a little more mature through the front third of her body, a little softer on her front feet, maybe just doesn't handle herself quite as good as we start to compare. A really interesting blue gilt that drops out next. Bigger in type and kind and just longer and more extended. I need to pick her up on her front toes. I need to square her in terms of her chest and knee and maybe just show me just a shot more punch as you start to study the bottom side of her skeleton, but still a very interesting kind of a hog. A good kind of a belted hog that drops next. Gets just a little more vanilla to the top side of her body, maybe not the bone or just the extras that we have at the top of the class. As we let the remaining hogs go, these are still very quality animals that's been cared for extremely well. A very competitive class. Congratulations to them all.
We're now moving on to our third class in the second division of the crossbred gilts. There are 9 head in this class. They range in weight turned in of 294 to 303. Just a reminder that barrel weight cards are due by 2 o'clock. So if you have not turned them in, you get back to the bar and maybe get working on that. They need to be in by 2 o'clock.
Just another one of those classes. It's just chock full of good ones and quality hogs all the way through. We land on a pair of blue ones that I think offer a lot in terms of similarities in type and kind. And ultimately, my class winner is one that I think if you start these two at the arena surface and you work your way up, that's the stronger footed hog that's just more correct in terms of her front pastern set. I think she bends her hind leg a fraction better as you start to study her going, and just the angle and the set to it is just a little more ideal. And then you flip up and you study her on the top side of her body. That's the cleaner neck one. It just has a more unique kind of a presence through the front third of her body. Fresh back, square hip, got a good hind leg. Really an interesting hog to go ahead and start. There's probably more chub and just a lot more thickness up high as you get into the Gilt at second. I love the three-dimensional build that's laid into her. A very powerfully hipped Gilt that's got a big, powerful pin set laid into her as you get in behind her. At the same time, that's one that maybe wants to get just a little softer right there on those front two, a little longer in her toes, a little softer in her pastern, maybe just not that extra look that we have in terms of the extra clean crest as we compare to our class winner. But her density and her bone work and just the spread and the genuine power that she has, I like just a little better than the hog in 3. The hog in 3 is really fun to look at. Long on each end, got a really feminine and attractive look through her front third of her body. I didn't see her as bold. I didn't see her as open in her shoulder. I didn't see her as big or as much spread there on the top side of the body. I just need to crack her open all the way through. From the side, the silhouette of her is awfully nice and certainly has a great show pig look and presence about her. There's probably just a shot bigger body and cage in the Gilt in 3 or 4. That's a very robust one that's got a lot of shape when you get it behind her. At the same time, she reads just a nickel rounder about her shoulder and hip, maybe a little crestier and meatier right there on the top part of her pole. And I didn't see her as genuine right there at the arena surface. Maybe not the bone work that we had in 1 through 3, but her power and her body and just that cage is what allowed me to go ahead and use her over the Gilt that drops out next. The young lady's belted Gilt is a very fresh back to it. I love the forward shape in her. I love the dense muscle that's laid into the top side of her body. At the same time, that's a Gilt that maybe gets just a little thicker in the top part of her neck and pole, maybe a little drier right there through her forerib and flank. Just didn't blend in proportion quite as well. For all the shape that she has up high, I wish her body and volume and bone would go ahead and match that kind of power. Another very interesting kind of a breed piece to sit there and study. A nice good built one that comes out next. It just didn't have that extra punch, a skeleton or whip to move any higher. I like her from the side. Young man's doing an awesome job of getting that one presented. Really, you can't draw on any prettier than that. Just runs out of gas as you study her underneath. There is a bigger chest in the blue hog that comes next. At the same time, that one gets just a little tighter hipped and straighter hog, not the structure that we had in a couple of them others. Another built the Gilt that drops next to one of the larger scale hogs, and I appreciate that type of size and frame. At the same time, that's another that maybe gets just a little drier and flatter through the lower portions of her body. Maybe just not that extra width and power that we had in a couple of them others. But her bone and her look and just that size and scale, I think is another unique kind of a breeding piece to study. The Calico Gilt that drops next is one that maybe gets just a little piecier from the side, maybe a little more lethargic on each end. Really a fun class. Congratulations to them all.
Coming to the ring now is class 18 of crossbred breeding Gilts. That's the big ones from 312 to 346 pounds. This is our last class of Division 2. So after this class, we need our first and second and some thirds to do our top 5 in our Division 2. How it's going to work after that? After we pick our Division 2 champion, we will go ahead and do our champion crossbred gilt drive right away. I believe it was the top 5. Then we will move on to our grand champion breeding gilt and top 5. That's from, we will want our top crossbred gilts, and then we will bring back every breed of our purebreds. If you've got a banner in the purebred classes, we want you back. What they're competing for here today, thanks to generous donations from all of our sponsors, which are listed in the book and a banner outside, and I know there was an online auction, people bought things, but I think it's an excellent payout. The Grand Champion Breeding Guild here today is going to receive $2,500. Reserve, $2,000, third, $1,500, fourth overall, $1,000, fifth, $500. In addition, they'll be receiving class money that we'll be mailing out later. So if you see any of those sponsors, be sure and thank them. Also, after we pick those champions, we do want to get pictures of the top 5 with the judge. And then while we're taking a break, we'd like to get pictures of all the breed and cross champion and reserves. So please have your banner and your pig ready, and we're going to take a break there to try and get some pictures taken of those before we move into our market gilts. We are going to be testing the top 5 breeding gilts, so we'll need you to stay in the placing pens while we collect the urine sample on those top 5. So just keep that in mind if you do end up in that top 5. We'll be picking this Division II champion here real soon, so we need the top 3 pigs from each of them first 3 classes. That was 15, 16, and 17. You were in the top 3. Get your pigs up here in the entry pens. I think we only have 1 up here so far.
Just a dogfight here at the top of this drive, and there's nothing easy about this decision. Again, I'll try and do my part in describing what I see, not that you can agree, but we can certainly see where I'm coming from, and that's always my ultimate goal. The bigger featured gilt's going to win the pair. I think that you study this one, from the tip of her nose to the root of her tail, she reads stouter. She's bigger and stouter in her jaw. She's denser in terms of her shoulder and her upper skeleton. She's got the bigger foot and the bigger chest, and I think she just spreads and cracks just a little bolder when you get right up on top of her and just study her right out of her pin set, and then the way that she transmits to the ground, she's just wider, she's more true as she goes towards the arena surface as you step in behind her. Now the show pony of the 2 is the Gilt in second. I'm not sure you can draw one any fancier, any prettier, and just any more attractive than what that Gilt is through the front third of her body. She is so trim and so cute in terms of her neckline. She's extra extended from her shoulders forward. She's a boxy kind of a Gilt that's got just an amazing type of a back line that's laid into her. I love her in terms of her shoulder and just the strength of her foot. At the same time, I'd like to lengthen her in her hip. I'd like to bend her hop just a fraction better and maybe just make her a little more true as you get in behind her and study her. Not quite the boldness that we have on our class winner, not the feature, not the honest width that you have right when you get in behind her. But man, that one is so fancy from the side. Certainly a contender in any class that you want to do. All day, every day, good kind of a Gilt in 3, just very practical, very fundamental and sound, a little more fragile in terms of bone work, maybe a little more lethargic in terms of the way she uses her hip, but I like her fresh back, I like her good body, and I love that type of look and presence from the side. There's probably more bone and more chub in the Gilt that drops out next. A little plainer fronted, a little thicker neck, maybe just a nickel rounder in terms of her shoulder, but her body and just that productive look is what allowed her to continue to move up in this respective drive. More extension in the Gilt that drops out next, and maybe a little cleaner kind of a neck, maybe a little more ideal in terms of her composition. At the same time, that's another that maybe gets just a little more narrow as she starts going towards the arena surface. I need to crack her open as you step in behind her and stop her hind leg up to make her more ideal, but I like her from the side. A solid kind of a blue Gilt that drops next that's really stout, really powerful and muscular. Again, as you study her in motion, she's a little tighter about her hip, a little straighter in her hind leg, maybe just not quite the cute blend that we had in a couple of them others. As we start to let the remaining hogs go, these are still very quality animals. The painted up Gilt needs to be stouter legged and sounder and just more blend from the side. The bottom 3 hogs are still very competitive animals and just get a little tighter as you study them on the move. Really an outstanding class all the way through. Congratulations to them all.
Okay, we're ready to go ahead and select our champion Division II crossbred breeding gilt. The first class, we have a gilt that weighed 276 pounds. The winner of our second class comes in at 290. From the third class, class 17, 297 pounds. And the winner, class 18, came in at 331.
One more time, if you would, please put your hands together for an outstanding champion ride. This division was deep, it was tough, and again, it was just a battle to have the chance to get to this point. So I commend these 4 exhibitors. I commend the folks, the kids that didn't get the chance or didn't do as well as they wanted. Man, they fought hard, and that's ultimately what it's all about. And as I try to find my champion, I think there is one that's just the total skill. She's the combination hog that blends and proportions extremely well from the side. She's got structure and feet. She's got a good pastern set. I like the way that her hind leg is shaped. I like the way that it bends. I like the freshness and the boldness that she has coming and going. And as you study her, they're on the top side of her body. I just think that her blend is a fraction better than what's most likely going to be my reserve. The white gilt's going to have it. Congratulations to him. drop the other blue gelt out, and it doesn't get any easier. As we talked in that class, there's probably just a fraction more chub and power in her as you get into her, especially they're on the top side of her body, and when you get in behind her, maybe not the pasture set, maybe not just that crisp look that we had in our champion up front, but that's still a very fresh and very well presented gelt that just reads with so much dimension and power, and just a good hind leg that works right in that particular gilt. So I think she's obviously right there in the mix of things. Our last class winner is just a grizzly bear in terms of bone and structure, and obviously she's at the end of her road, and she's ready to be a mama in terms of instead of a show hog, and that's okay. But that's another one that just reads so dense, so big in terms of her features, and for as big as she is, her skeleton done a nice job of just staying intact and staying in check, and I think that we can contribute that to just the angles of her skeleton, the length and the levelness of her hip, the center of hind legs. She's got a good shoulder that's laid into her. I like her second best. She's going to be reserved. Congratulations to her.
Okay, we're ready to go ahead and pick our grand champion commercial gilt. First we'll let out our lightweight, our Division 1 champion, I should say. Our champion from the Division 2 will be the white gilt.
I'd love to throw this pair in the back of my truck and take them home and see what can happen with them in the sow line. I think these are movers and shakers. I think they're barrel makers. And folks, like I told you at the beginning of the show, if I can't sell barrows in my house, if the show pig mamas that I have can't produce market barrows, then I'll go bankrupt. It doesn't happen. And so I'm a barrel-oriented guy. That's my passion. That's what we try and shoot for and fight for at the house. And so whenever I'm studying breeding gilts, yes, I want them functional. Yes, I want them sound and correct and with the right angles and the right type of underlines and a good vulva set. But at the end of the day, I gotta have these sows that's got some extra punch. I gotta have them with some density and some dimension to them. Otherwise, they're just feed eaters and they're not contributing much. So these two are power hogs that they've got good skeletons. They're comfortable on each end of their body. They've got the right type of angles to their shoulder and knee. They're long and they're level and they're functional out of their hip, and their hind leg bends like it's supposed to. They're fresh bodied, they're fresh back, they're show hogs. But they still got some extra bells and whistles. Between the two, one of them is just denser. She's just a little stouter in terms of her foot. She's just a little bigger in her forearm, and her rear leg bone probably has just a nickel more in terms of skull and jawline, and still a really cute kind of a neck that's laid into her. A really interesting kind of a look in terms of her profile and the presence that she has from the side. Young man's heavy's going to have it. Congratulations to him. Drop the reserve heavy and it doesn't get any easier. Like we talked about, that was probably maybe just a little past 12 in terms of prime and just the way that she's looking from the side, getting just a little washed out. Her foreloin maybe just a little more mature looking, but man, that is just a grizzly in terms of structure and foot and just spread and dimension. She's so honest, she's so dense up high. I think that's another that gets right into the mix of things. Maybe one that just hits me just a little harder from the side, maybe just reads just a nickel fresher up high, maybe just proportions just a fraction better is the young man's lightweight. She's going to be reserved. Congratulations to her. I'll talk the third out, and then I'll set the mic down and go ahead and line the other two up. But like I mentioned, my third out is one that, again, I would love to take home and see what could happen with her. An incredible show pig looking mama. You're going to have third out. Congratulations. Okay, we're ready to tie our grand champion breeding gilt competing for $2,500. We'll start with the AOB class. You want to let out your champion?
Next, we're looking for our champion Berkshire. Next will come the Duroc. Then we'll go with our Hampshire. Next will be our representative of the Herefords. Now we're looking for our Spot. Then the Yorkshire. Then we'll bring on our Grand Champion Crossbred. Let's give all these exhibitors a good hand for our champion drive and our breeding Gilt show. As I said, thanks for the generous support of all of our sponsors. The Grand Champion Gilt will get a check for $2,500, reserve $2,000. So I think that's pretty good payout for the way this year has gone. So thank you to all the sponsors for really stepping up here for the youth of Minnesota.
I know we still have a lot left to do, but man, what a trip it's been so far. Folks, I think it's only appropriate that we give these kids that are out in the ring a big round of applause. No doubt about it, 2020 will be a year to remember. I think it's kind of gut punched us all in one way or another, but probably one of the biggest impacted people is these young kids. You know, they're creatures of habit, and man, their habits and their way of lives have been altered pretty significantly. I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the news, I'm tired of the media, I'm tired of listening to anything that's on the TV or social media. It's exhausting. It's all doom and gloom. The world's coming to an end, and quite frankly, I'm ready for normal. But I get a little bit better feel whenever I get a chance to come to a hog show, guys. Looking out here, looking at the kids that came through this ring, if that doesn't give you hope, if it doesn't give you optimism and a bright future, I don't know what will. This is the best of the best. I couldn't be more pleased and more proud to be a part of the 4-H and FFA industry across the country. These are the best kids that's going to make this nation better. That's the bottom truth. And so thank you guys. Let's give these kids one more round of applause. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for just giving me a chance to give back to some normal things. This is, again, very refreshing for me. It does my soul well. It does my body well. And again, this is something we do at home as a family. And there's no place else I'd rather raise my kids than in a barn. And as I try to find my champion, so many of these are deserving. These are elite caliber gilts that, again, can make their respective breeds better. I think they can make the next generation better. And at the end of the day, it's just simply the one that hits me the most, which one that I would want to take home the fastest to try and work around and build around. So guys, I'll go select your champion. I'll get back on the mic and talk my reserve, and then we'll get you a top 5. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity. It's been a blast. It's been an awesome set of kiddos and an awesome set of pigs.
Congratulations to Noah Schaefer of Wanamingo, our grand champion breeding Gilt. He's going to receive a check for $2,500. We're now going for reserve.
I thought my champion brought so many things that were special. I thought that she had just a flawless and timeless kind of a build and skeleton. I loved her bone work. I loved her unique look from the side. Gets us a little closer out here for reserve, but there's another one. It wasn't quite as dense as my champion, but I thought in terms of quality and proportions and just those extra bells and whistles that we all like to talk about, I think she's the next best one. Reserve Cross is going to have reserve green. Congratulations to him.
Congratulations, Kate Frecking, your reserve champion breeding Gilt. He'll receive a check for $2,000. Now we'll drop our third place crossbred Gilt into the ring. Third goes to Olivia Vorpagel. Nicole Kazalek, fourth overall. She will receive a check for $1,000. Just a reminder, we need urine samples on these top five, so we have to work that in, and I also want pictures with the judge of the top five. And if you have a banner, if you're up here, make sure you get a picture by the backdrop with your pick of your banner. So we're going to take a lunch break here and get these pictures taken. Hopefully you can go over and take a part in those food stands over there. Before he picks his fifth place, let's give our judge, Jeremy Cantrell, a good hand for the job he's done this morning. Fifth overall goes to Audrey Redolin. Congratulations to our top five exhibitors. Again, if you have a banner, we'd like to get your picture over there by the backdrop. So in an orderly fashion, let's get these pictures lined up. We don't need 10 of them over there at a time, but kind of hold them and work with Zach over there, and we can move through these, I think, fairly rapidly. We'd like that first class of market Gilt